The Chorus of Westerly produces in a small town in Rhode Island what organizations in Boston and New York and other large cities have a lot of trouble doing.
It's one of the most unique intergenerational community organizations, I think, in the entire country. And not just because of the music. It is a musical organization because it's a community chorus, but it is an organization that has touched the lives of thousands of families in a small New England town for 57 years.
I basically believe that we all ought to pay attention to our 5 basic senses, which we all know: touch, taste, smell, hearing, sight. And I think if we as human beings make great use of those senses and implement them, that we're going to stand to live a fuller life. And I wanted to get children involved in that.
We give children the opportunity to perform the masterworks of choral music and do it at a level that is rare. And we do it as a chorus and not as an orchestra. We are an organization that does everything from the ground floor. We like to build it up from scratch and do it all ourselves. I joined the Chorus of Westerly in 1995, so my first experience with the chorus was coming to camp, which at this point I'm convinced was really the selling point for me, and I think it is for a lot of the kids who join the chorus. The camp experience gives them the opportunity to get to know each other in a way that they just don't get in the rest of the year. They spend an entire week together. It's an intense bonding experience for all of them to be able to get to know each other and play games and really become the team that is the Chorus of Westerly.
I knew that camp was a great incentive for the kids. It also, besides the camp activities, musically, we could get a good head start on the following year.
Camp Ogontz, to me, is a little bit of a home away from home. I mean, I don't know if it's just because I've been going there for over 17 years, but like whenever you get there, you're always excited.
Good, and that's wonderful when I can leave you for a few notes at a time on the piano and start to do that more and more.
Camp Ogontz we are just about 35 minutes northwest of Franconia Notch State Park, Cannon Mountain. We're somewhere between Lisbon, New Hampshire and Littleton, New Hampshire. We're actually in the town of Lyman on a very small lake. It's actually a lake and not a pond. We're about 3.5 hours north of Boston and about 4.5 hours from Westerly.
It's on its own little lake. It's 450 acres of mostly timberland. There's wildlife galore.
All right, imagine that this is the most exciting thing you've ever sung in your life. Me, wa, me, even though it's not. But pretend that it is and show me that. Ready? Me. And I need to see eyes. You don't look like you're ready for it. Ready? And. Good. Me.
My first time at camp was pretty amazing. I was a little nervous because I haven't been away from my parents for that long, but it was fun with all activities and singing and getting together. It was pretty fun.
The whole camp experience, getting them away from mom and dad and getting up here to make great music together and do things beyond music like play capture the flag or swim, it links the kids together in a way that we can't do at home.
I like how they just keep you up and you're doing something every day. Like you're playing capture the flag, you're doing a treasure hunt, you're doing a scavenger list.
It's kind of like a break from like concerts and rehearsals that are all strict, and we kind of have more fun at rehearsals because everyone's more laid back.
The first year we got there, they were in the process of selling it. And they sold it to an old Ogontz camper Betty Huber was her name. She was very interested in equestrian activities, and it thrived for a while, but ultimately it didn't thrive. Betty Huber one day came to me and said, "You're either going to buy that camp or I'm going to turn it into house lots." Well, that was about the last thing I had intended with my life. However, we bit the bullet. It was a rather large bullet. I have to say I'm very glad we did. We turned it around, and it now runs from June 1st till a week past Columbus Day.
It's very hard for them to put the iPhones down, and the real trick is to keep them as busy as possible and get them so that they forget about that modern world and get them back to the fundamentals of just, play, rehearsing, hard work.
Everything we did made us so happy, and the food, everyone loved the food. But it was just everything about camp that made thinking about home, you just didn't think about it because it was so amazing and such a great experience to be there.
I was kind of nervous because I had never been away from my mom and dad for that long before, but once I got there it was really fun.
Good. This next section we looked at with the older kids, but we did not do ourselves. Put your finger on measure 141. The difference between here and Westerly in terms of the setting for the music is that we get to spend every day, several times a day, working on this. So it's a much more intense relationship that we get with the music. We can delve in deeper because we don't have the week separation in between, or 5 days, depending on when the rehearsals are for the kids. We get to really kind of, step on things day after day to really ingrain them. Usually by the end of the week, the kids are pretty well versed in a lot of the music. So we get to go back in the fall and already have a big head start to where we want to be.
I remember the first year at camp, we were having a group rehearsal, and I was freaking out. I'm like, where's my music? Where did I put my music? And then I stand up at the end of rehearsal and I realized I sat on the music the whole time, and I just came out of the lake.
The adults that come up here pay to come up here to volunteer to work their tails off for a week. But they do it out of love, and they do it out of a belief in something much more important than money or time.
Yeah, cool, okay.
There's beauty in every part. You look around everywhere, there's beauty. And there's so much camaraderie that happens all during the camp season.
After I came home from camp, that was the only thing I talked about. I'm pretty sure my friends got pretty annoyed because I just loved camp so much that whenever chorus was brought up, I was always like, oh, look at camp.
Everybody that comes there for whatever venue, I think really has a fulfillment.
I love these kids, and it's such fun work to get to do, to get to work with all ages. That's one of the best things about the Chorus of Westerly is we have everyone in there from age 8 up is what it's supposed to be, and to get to be a part of these kids' lives in some way. I know what a difference that this made for me growing up, so I understand what a responsibility and what a difference we can make for these kids.
In 1956, I started at Christ Church, and when we first started the chorus, we used to rehearse here.
The chorus started at Christ Church in 1959 and performed, that's a beautiful Episcopal church down the street from us, and performed there for most of its concerts in its first 4 to 6 years perhaps, and then other concerts at the nearby high schools.
It was right here at Christ Church, and it was, well, it had to be in December, I think, of '59. And it was the Dedican Te Deum of Handel, and we put together an orchestra, and we took up pews and put in risers and went through all of that. For many years, we sang mostly here.
By chance, they happened to offer a performance here in this building, the George Kent Performance Hall, which was, at the time, Westerly's only Catholic church.
We ultimately moved to the old Immaculate Conception Church, which I think was in close process to being raised. We were very impressed with the acoustics. That building is laying fallow. We can at least investigate the possibility of saving it, and it's a wonderful, and it still is. It's a marvelous acoustic. Many major musicians have been there in the process and commented on that.
It was built by the old, in the old Italian style, which you have wood and plaster and beautiful stained glass and soaring ceilings. Well, what they created, much like you'd find in Italy, is an unbelievable acoustical space for choral music in particular. And after the chorus and the Kents started to work in here, they realized we have a gem on our hands and we can't let this thing go to the ground.
I am incredibly lucky, and the singers are incredibly lucky that our predecessors had the foresight to save this building, which could have turned into a parking lot, but you know, it's a home for us.
My temple, whatever it is.
You have to be totally committed to the moment, because what is the role of the conductor? It's not just a matter of beating time and getting from here to here, it's how you get from here to here. And as a conductor with a live performance, you have to make snap decisions almost every beat, because if something suddenly is not the way you thought it was going to be in the rehearsal, you've got to reshape it, you know, so it's exciting.
Growing up with George Kent and starting with him when I was young, it was, you had nothing but the utmost respect for that man when you're singing with him.
George Kent was always my hero. He was my mentor. He was my teacher. I mean, essentially, Bunky was my father figure from when I started singing in the chorus, which, you know, it adds a whole other level of intensity to the transition between he and I.
He is a very humble person. Respect is big in his life. If he has your respect, then you're doing pretty well.
I've always, during my tenure with the chorus, I always had a lot of help from people in the chorus. We had a lot of people who devoted practically their whole lives to that organization.
George Kent has taught me not only how to become a better singer, the singer that I am now, but he's also taught me to be a more mature young adult, because he, right from the start, he would always treat you with respect and maturity, and I think that helped me as I grew up.
He had a particular way of working with children and inspiring them, scaring them a little bit, but not in a very good way, but he demanded a lot of excellence out of them.
He's a very close friend of mine. He's just a very, very good friend. He's a sincere, honest person who really works hard, and works out as a friend, and works out as a fisherman, and works out as a director. His retirement was a total surprise. I didn't know anything about it until after it happened.
You know, you just don't want to get over the edge of that hill too far, if there is a hill. And I thought, you know, things are in pretty good shape. I think it's probably time. So I decided to step down.
Bunky gave his annual report, and then he finally said, and this will be my last year. Well, first of all, I thought I had to pick him up because I wasn't sure what he was going to do. Nobody in the entire room knew. There was this huge sort of gasp, and then there was just a dead silence.
I think if they've gotten something out of it that's positive for them, that if they can use music in some way, I really enjoy that. you know, just getting somebody started into what maybe they can use for the rest of their life in some form.
My goal is always to live up to his standards, and his standards are incredibly high and were instilled in me from very early on. So it's wonderful to be able to continue his tradition and continue his work with the chorus, and at the same time, you know, to be able to actually have him up there and have him observing it and know that he is still involved and proud of everything that's going on, and seeing that we have a bright future ahead is a wonderful thing. So from the bar before,
Who is Andrew Howell? Well, Andrew Howell is the second music director of the Chorus of Westerly, and that's something to be said.
So I joined the Chorus of Westerly when I was 12 years old, and I had had a little bit of musical experience before, taking piano lessons and things like that my mom had pushed me into doing, but I really had no interest in it. And when I had my first experience of going up to Camp Ogantz with the Chorus of Westerly, it just kind of hooked me.
Bunky's the one that taught Andrew. I mean, that's where Andrew had never done anything with music before his first year at choir camp. And he said it wasn't long after that he said, I think this is something I want to do for the rest of my life.
And then I decided that I wanted to study in school, so I went for a music education degree.
It was a privilege to chair that committee that hired him and to watch him through that whole process.
Ready, and. Yeah, but I'm getting, like you forget, and then you all of a sudden fall over yourself. You're tripping on your own feet. A little crescendo on that whole held note will help you.
He beat out a field of 40 other candidates, some very competitive ones from across the US, England, Canada, and he got the job.
I always had in the back of my head that I would be interested in, you know, applying for the Chorus of Westerly job when it ever came available, when Bunky decided to retire.
There wasn't a doubt in anyone's mind that he was the right choice.
I always had an idea that it would be kind of a dream come true if I got the job, but I didn't know if it would actually pan out.
Andrew has such life about him, such exuberance, and he knows how to share it. And he can get it out of you, even if you don't want to share it. He's a very kind, giving person. And I can only imagine, I didn't know Bunky then, but I can only imagine that he was the same when he started out.
The difference between George Kent and Andrew Howell, I think, partly is generational. Bunky was more of a father figure, I think, for a lot of people that I know growing up. I know that's true for Andrew Howell, for him personally, for him to grow up with that, with George Kent, and now to become music director. I think he uses that knowledge and that wisdom, and his style is much more of an equal.
Just having this group, this basically family as it became to me, as a single parent, coming from a single parent family, and being an only child, I was looking for another group to be a part of as a 12-year-old, looking for my place in the world.
I listened very intently, and I think Andrew's working very hard. I think it's going very well, really. Again, it's a huge project. And the involvement of all of those people, you know, I think it's great.
he is the best example of what the Chorus of Westerly has been trying to do. We as an organization changed his lives through music. We gave him an opportunity to the point where it became his career.
And with his enthusiasm and energy and youth, he's going to take the chorus to the next 2 or 3 levels. It's a joy to watch him.
Andrew teaches us, sometimes right in the middle of when we're rehearsing, he'll just stop us completely to go write something on the board to teach us a new symbol that's on the music.
Stop! What am I going to say? Fangen, not fangen. No hard G on that, please. A big part of getting the diction together, I guess, of a chorus is just getting people to have the micro beats and the macro beats so that everyone internally is feeling the beat of the music. I'm very specific about where I want things to go. So if I want the D to be on the upbeat of beat 3, I will tell them that and everyone will write it in and that's hopefully where it will go.
Some things he does would be like stop, and he wouldn't play the piano, he would just like say it in rhythm. And like say it over and over and over again until it's like, we've got it.
And also for the crescendos and the decrescendos, when it's a crescendo, he throws his arms up and he's like flailing around. And when it's a decrescendo, he makes a scared face and he pulls back.
Conducting an orchestra and a chorus is kind of like the people you see spinning plates. You know, you get about 100 plates spinning and you just kind of have to know which one to hit. It's a constant preempting of things. So I mark up all of my scores often in color. Whenever I have a cue or something that I know that I need to give, I make sure to write it in there, and I have most of it memorized. And the score at this point is just a reference. So I can look down and say, okay, that's coming up, and then be up and involved in everything else that's going on. The more I'm out and giving myself to them, the more they'll be out and giving themselves to me.
And it's joyful. And music making should be nothing. If it's nothing, it should be joyful for both the listener and the people who are making the music.
But to watch my kids grow up and think of all of them singing in the chorus that I grew up singing in and so many generations before is such a wonderful thought. To be able to continue on the tradition, that our children will be the 4th generation in my wife's family to sing in the Chorus of Westerly. Okay. So in measure 71, that's your big moment, tenors. When you get off of that, you'll want to probably breathe somewhere before that moment to get in there so that we can then get right through that. Otherwise, we're a little bit behind, and you're in parallel with the soprano, so it's very important that we're right together on that. I think the chorus ultimately boils down to the children. The fact that we include them in the things that we do, the fact that they are singing the musical masterworks along with the adults.
Yeah, it's hard to understand why George Kent would have 8-year-olds singing alongside 80-year-olds when he was putting this all together. He had the Christ Episcopal Church choir, which was really based on an Anglican model and had kids singing service music along with adults anyway. And he himself had been, I think, a bit fascinated with how the big English cathedral and abbey choirs worked, where you had trebles, sopranos singing alongside of adults in particular. And I think he looked at what they were capable of doing, at least with church service music, and said, well, if they can sing some beautiful Palestrina motet, why can't they sing the Bach B minor Mass?
The truth of the matter is, children singing, they learn not only singing, but they learn to see a job from start to finish and accomplish that. And that's a big plus for kids to learn. If they happen to be singing in a church choir, they get that challenge once a week. In the chorus, they get it in a big sense 4 or 5 times a year.
Well, when I first started, I started in choir before I started in chorus, and I had kind of gotten used to the Latin because I had been with Mr. Kent, who always drilled you on the Latin and making sure you knew everything. And so once I started getting more into what it meant and how it affected people, I started getting more into it and studying some of it and getting used to it. And as you just keep going, you feel so much better that you're open to all this stuff, because most kids our age aren't even open to things like this. And being so open to it really opens more opportunities, like tours and everything. You're so much more you have more knowledge of where you're going and how things work where you're going.
This intergenerational model is something that does definitely work. As long as you train the children properly, to give them the opportunity to do this instills this lifelong passion for music.
Children can learn this music far faster than adults and actually have the same ability to produce sound.
Well, I learned being the chorus about like all the high notes and low notes and what they're called.
We keep on practicing over the words because we can't get them right, and then he tells us what they mean.
The other thing we're forgetting is something that you're supposed to do when you have a tie over a bar line, which is a what? Yes. We need a little bit more motion in this. It's too stagnant right now.
Having all this knowledge and everything about not only languages, but going to places where people may not be comfortable and opening people up to different experiences.
And also in Spanish class, when my teacher asks us if we know any more languages, I can say that I know Latin and German along with English, and she's really surprised when I told her that the first day.
You have music class in school and you sing these songs that are new and they're in English, they're not in German where you're screaming your mouth off and really having a workout. Chorus is just basically a mosh pit of a bunch of different languages and a bunch of different music written however many years ago, whether it's recent or old. It's just everything.
Age 8 is a good place to start. Particularly with trebles or boys, because of course by the time they get to their 13th year, somewhere in there, the voice is going to break, and that they won't have that opportunity. And that's a little bit late to start them, also starting them as young men as opposed to them getting the experience before. So that's why age 8 was the magic number.
I mean, really, there is no other chorus that gives kids always the chance to sing these masterworks and to do this in the U.S.
Well, we're rehearsing for the March concert, which is
No, we're rehearsing for the next concert.
Sorry, our last concert was March concert. We're
No, the
rehearsing
last
for the
concert
May
was the
concert.
May concert. We already did the May. Did we already do the May concert?
No, that's next week.
That's next week. Okay.
The chorus is preparing children by giving them the opportunity to perform this incredible music that they most likely wouldn't have the opportunity to do until they were adults anywhere else, if ever, in their life. And for a small town like Westerly to be able to offer it, something at the level of Boston or New York, is just really incredible for the region.
Okay, so we're doing the May concert. Last month. The last concert was our March concert. We're rehearsing for the May concert, and we're singing two books, which are the Requiem and the Gloria.
How many kids have gone through the ranks since 1959? About I think we're approaching about 1,500 that have actually, sung a full season through.
It's life-changing. I mean, it was for me, and I know that it is for many of the kids in the chorus. You go through this process, you start learning the music, you work on the little nitty-gritty details, and then that concert week when everything comes together, it's just magic. All of a sudden you bring in the soloist, you bring in this full orchestra, and it all comes to life in this incredible way, and you realize that you're actually a part of something way beyond what you alone could do. It's an incredible group effort, and to work with people in that way is intense and incredibly fulfilling.
When you're here, you just enjoy yourself and it feels comfortable because you're singing and you're doing what you like to do and you're with people that you know and like.
Twelfth Night came out of the head of Ann Utter and George Kent, and I think really gave the chorus a well-roundedness.
Ann Utter, who was also a pioneer in the chorus's organization, and who was extremely good at writing librettos, put together all these shows for many years.
They should know what these things are like. And that's, I think, how I would imagine Anne would think about Twelfth Night. People should know what those times were like, the Elizabethan times. But she had the energy and the drive.
It really just evolved into an enormous production. That when I tried to describe it to people at any point, it was as if a circus crashed into an opera that crashed into a Christmas pageant.
And it was very hard to describe because it wasn't a Broadway musical and it wasn't light opera. It was Twelfth Night.
Now devils from this hall dispel and evil disappear. Let love and laughter now protect you all throughout the year.
It allowed us to venture into new territory with the theatrical side of things. It allowed us to sing repertoire that we wouldn't necessarily put on a regular concert.
In my undergraduate studies, I can remember a French course where I was learning about the Feast of the Cakes and the Bean and all of that. And I thought, Twelfth Night, you know, that's a thought of an idea. And really, that's what we started with.
If anything, it was artistically glorious because of spectacle. I mean, there was always something wild happening every year, and it was a can't-miss kind of event.
As with everything the chorus does, we do it big or we don't do it at all. So Twelfth Night is a really just jam-packed weekend.
And it was an incredibly successful event where not just large audience numbers came to it, large amounts of community members outside of just singers in the chorus got a chance to be in the play and to be a part of it. I mean, you're talking a cast of 100 or so every year.
It's still a successful show, and at some point it would be nice to do another type of Twelfth Night again, or to bring Twelfth Night back the way it was.
It was logical to say, okay, now is the time to take a little break from this and to see what our world is like without Twelfth Night.
And right before the final show, we have this wonderful tradition where everybody gathers together around the piano and we sing the Hallelujah Chorus.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
I mean, you have 120 chorus members, you have a cast of 100, and all the crew jam into that one room to sing the Hallelujah Chorus.
And he shall reign forever and ever.
I had so much trouble walking into that room to do that for the last time. And I know that there are great things that we're looking at ahead, but I certainly feel the sadness of putting that aside for a while because it's been such a part of my life for a long time.
I went into Twelfth Night thinking that, oh, I'll be fine, everything's fine, just kind of like brush it off. But then it got to the Hallelujah Chorus and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm gonna make it through this. I got very emotional and it took me by surprise.
So to walk in there and know that we're kind of doing this tradition of everybody, cast members, singers, people who have no experience singing at all, who just get together and belt out the Hallelujah Chorus. It's such a moving experience, and it really brings everyone together for that one final hurrah of the last show. So it was a very poignant and moving experience for me to be able to lead that one last time.
Hallelujah.
This year was emotional, to say the least, but it was beautiful. It was, we didn't want it to be a sad thing. We wanted it to be joyful and a wonderful, joyful, glorious celebration of 40 years of tradition.
I can't get out much right now, but thank you all so much for so many years. 20 for me and 40 for 12th night. This is such a wonderful thing that we've been able to do, and thank you all for being a part of it. We have one more amazing show to do, so keep up the great work, and thank you all. All right?
Now fare ye well for all this year, yet for my sake make you good cheer. Now, have good day.
Well, the chorus has had the unique opportunity to go on tour 5 times in its history.
A tour for the chorus is incredibly good for morale. It's great for the community feeling. People who travel together get to know each other much better. I mean, it's just quite a bonding experience. So to be able to give our singers that opportunity now, I think was a very valuable thing.
And if you think about that, you've got an organization that is so large with so many singers that any trip is not going to be 30, 40 people and a few chaperones. You're talking tours that are usually anywhere from 180 to 300 people going on it. Our most recent one had 228 on it, and kids and adults and spouses.
Touring is not easy because, and I say that because at one point I toured for about 18 years. Just 2 people, but it's tricky, and taking a whole chorus, who's going to forget their vestment, who's going to forget their music. We had all kinds of little issues like that, so it's a big challenge, but it worked and it was very successful.
In 1981, that was a wild tour. We went to England, and the chorus produced their own tours back then. We didn't use a tour company. I don't think there were tour companies back in 1981, because who would bring 200 people to Europe to sing? Nobody, except for the Chorus of Westerly.
We knew that we could do it. That was obvious. I had been to England previously, and we decided that it might be a good project to put the chorus on the map.
And one of the things that they thought would be nifty would be as if all the tour buses would go to the moors and we would cook lamb chops on the moors for everyone.
Bunky cooked them on this little, looked like a charcoal grill. The 200 lamb chops. I mean, you could die of starvation by the time you got yours, but you had a lamb chop.
And I don't ever remember actually having a lamb chop that day. I think I had an apple, but that's okay, because it was one of the most extraordinary experiences of my life. I mean, I was 14, and yet I still remember it like it was yesterday.
Well, we sang at Westminster Abbey. We sang also at Great St. Bart's in London. We sang at Ely Cathedral.
They toured England and Scotland, and that actually came off of an opportunity and an invitation to sing Evensong at King's College, Cambridge, which is by far the leading college choral program in the UK, and also an invitation to sing Evensong at Westminster Abbey. And the chorus at that time was the first American choir to get such invitations to both places, so it was a very big deal.
One of my favorite things of that trip was staying in Durham. We were there twice. We went when we first got there, and then later on we came back, and we stayed in the castle. And one time in the castle, my wife and I had the The bishop's apartment is our place to stay, which is gorgeous, obviously. And it was just a beautiful time.
They decided to go on tour again, and they originally were going to tour Italy in 1986, but there was a terrorist attack in Rome, which delayed the trip by a year, so they went to Italy in 1987. It ended up being over 3 weeks because the chorus received an invitation to sing at the Spoleto Festival of Two Worlds. And then 1995, the chorus went back to England for a couple of weeks, and they went to England and Wales this time, and got to sing in places like Canterbury Cathedral, and again back to Westminster Abbey, this time for a whole weekend, and sang in Cardiff, Wales, different places, very exciting. And then there was a break for 19 years.
For music making, to be able to go and perform in these incredible venues over in Europe is such a valuable thing for the singers to get to do. For the organization, it gives us the kind of clout back here in the US that we're now an international touring chorus again. We always say that we're internationally touring, but it had been 19 years, so now we've got it, we've checked that off.
But we went on tour in the July of 2014, and we did it a little differently than before, but we took the chorus to the Czech Republic, to Austria, and to Hungary, and got to sing in places like Smetana Hall in Prague and the Stephansdom in Vienna.
It was really exciting because you got to see like new places. Plus, I've never been to that other, like Europe.
The first thing I did was like kiss the ground. I'm like, thank God. That was 7 hours of my life I'm never gonna get back.
One of the places we went, we were facing forward and the people were facing the same way as us. So they weren't looking at us, and it was kind of odd, but it was kind of like satisfying because they just listened to it and you knew that they were like into the music and listening to everything that we were doing. And it kind of took a lot of pressure off because we were obviously nervous, but the concerts were probably one of the best parts of it.
What was amazing about that is the piece we sang was the Dvorak Stabat Mater, which was premiered and written by Dvorak in Prague, and then after he premiered it in Prague, he took it to Budapest. So we had a chance to basically take the piece home again, and that's a very incredible thing when you've got these 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds singing Dvorak in Prague in front of houses of more than 1,000 people. It was incredible.
And the audience shot out of their seats. The whole auditorium, it was over 1,000 people, shot to their feet. There were 6 or 7 or 8 curtain calls. It was unbelievable. I have never been so proud in my life.
I would take us anywhere. I think we should just keep a tradition of touring going and travel the world over time. I think we should go anywhere they'll have us. Summer Pops is certainly a unique beast. We are a chorus putting on a symphonic pops concert, which is really kind of unheard of. Typically, a orchestra would put on the pops concert and maybe invite a chorus to be part of it. We do it ourselves because it's what we do. It's one of the wonderful things about the chorus. We don't shy away from big opportunities.
Folks like Doug Rayner. He basically, after the first one, took it and turned it into a town-wide, birthright. I mean, the most important thing that maybe our town or we do as a community. There's something wonderful about having this incredible concert with all of these people for free, a $100,000 concert offered for free that anyone can come to in a beautiful park in a beautiful town like Westerly.
I thought, you know, we can do something a little unique in Westerly. We could do a Pops concert on the post office steps, which is where we started. And yet I could involve the chorus as well. So it became a large community event. I think we gave 2 concerts there, maybe 3, but 2. I know I was scared out of my gourd on one of them because we'd had that enormous flood. And the buildings on the edge of the river were not, you know, and I was worried that the cannon fire in the 1812 overture might, because in the previous year I had seen Woodman C's plate glass window buckle when the cannons went off. So let's hope we get through this. And we did. But it also meant shutting down US Route 1. That's not too easy, particularly in the summer.
Well, it became clear by 1983, by the third one, that it was becoming a public safety issue if they were going to continue this. So the chorus approached the Westerly Public Library about using Wilcox Park, and it moved into the park, and then suddenly almost a perfect formula was found, and it subsequently has just continued year after year.
Typically we have about 5 weeks, if we're lucky, 5 weeks to prepare the chorus for it. In terms of repertoire, I try and strike a happy balance between stuff that we've done in the past, things that people will be familiar with.
We have 25,000 people on a good night. Some years we've even had 30 show up in Wilcox Park, and we have a big band of about 60 come play with us, and you know, movie stuff, soundtracks, and 1812 overtures, and patriotic things, and you know, a typical Pops concert.
Summer Pops actually, I guess by that point in the first season, it didn't scare me as much as the earlier. I thought I had a lot more pressure in the hall. I mean, certainly getting up in front of 20,000 people is not a task to brush off, but I actually felt relatively comfortable. I think by that point I was just kind of like, well, yeah, we're gonna do our thing. We've got a good concert for you, so let's do this. Yeah, it wasn't as scary as I thought it would be, actually.
But we have the Grucci brothers come in, actually it's the Grucci family now, come in and do fireworks and cannons and all sorts of things are happening, and with church bells. But it's probably our most important community evening, and it's 1,000, probably 1 million moving pieces, but it's by far the most rewarding and fun to do. One thing about the Chorus of Westerly that I think, if I had to pin it down to one word, it's family. And it might not necessarily be all my blood family, but when you look up on the risers and you see a guy like Charlie Kitchen, and then you see his daughter Deb singing, you know, right across the riser from him, And then right in front of her is Grace, Deb's daughter. And you look at that, you know, their family, there's 3 generations right there singing.
There's, I don't think, any other activity that a family where grandparents, parents, and children can all participate and do the same activity. And it's absolute joy every time. I love it. Hard work, but I love it.
Yeah, it's a very enjoyable thing to have your family all down. You know, I'm always up in the back row of the risers and having my family down there and be able to keep my eye on them and see how much they're enjoying themselves. And a lot of pride as well.
There's nothing like singing on the risers with your parents and both of your children.
The music creates its own bond, but then when you have people to share it with, especially family, it just enhances its beauty and importance.
Now they're their own family, but then you look at all the other people around them on the risers and you can find these same sorts of strings, and you realize all those people on the riser are family. And then, you know, Charlie might be singing for 45, 50 years, and the people who came before him, who sang with him in those early years, they're part of the family. And you realize that the chorus is really this giant 2,000 person family.
Being with all those different people, everyone has someone. It's not like there's an odd person out, everyone is involved.
But it's the idea that you are part of a system that's making music. You're bringing joy to people and joy to yourself. It's an incredible experience, it really is.
We already are an incredible performing organization with a great history, a varied repertoire. We've toured, we've done commissions, and all of those things are wonderful, and I just want to do more of that now.
The most important thing for any lively artist, again, whether it's theater or dance, is the moment. And you cannot be anything but totally involved in that.
I want us to be more recognized in the greater choral world for what we do. We really should be the model for other intergenerational choruses. And hopefully more of them will spring up based on our model, but first we need to put that out there so that people can see what it is that we do here. I mean, if other small towns across America could pull off what we've done, that would be great for the world. It would only, you know, make things better for everybody.